Brought to you by Naturals2Go, the VIBEcast is your gateway to realizing your entrepreneurial dreams.
Hey folks, welcome to VIBEcast. Linda Ballesteros here. So glad you were able to find some time out of your busy day to spend with us today. Recently read an article. The title of the article was Entrepreneurship as a Retirement Lifestyle. The article went on to say retirement used to mean the end of an era, a complete exit from the workplace. Today, retirement is becoming a transition to greater lifestyle choices versus a complete severance from a career. Entrepreneurship has become an attractive alternative for older employees who are seeking more when they reach retirement age. So, again, thank y'all so much for being here today. My guest is Nate and Lori Kenworthy. And Lori, I'll probably mess this up. Lori has been a radiologic technologist for 43 years. And Nate actually retired from the Army after serving 23 years. They've had their vending business for a little over a year and a half now, and we want to hear a little bit about their journey. Guys, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Absolutely. So, Nate, tell me a little bit about what that transition was when you left the service, when you left the Army, and you decided you just didn't want to sit at home and feed the squirrels.
Yeah, so great point there. I actually did about 6 years with Home Depot. I was in the corporate life for a while and realized that that probably wasn't what I wanted to do until I was 65, especially since I was already retired. Had a lady that was kind of a headhunter for franchises and stuff like that. And she did a very thorough, in-depth research on us, asked us questions, and gave us Naturals2Go as an option for that. And I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew that in the military I'd have a decent retirement, and I wanted to use that as my backup to get into business myself. So this was just a walk in and ready for us to go for it.
Love that. And so, Lori, were you part of this investigation for an entrepreneur opportunity?
Absolutely. Like you said, we had a headhunter, and she kind of had a talk with all of us, with both of us, and kind of basically found our interests, the kind of things that we like to do, and then she gave us about 7 or 8 different options, and she said, "Hey, if none of these work, then we'll go back to the drawing board again." And we kept coming back to this. It just seemed like a good fit.
Yeah. And so, Lori, what was it about vending that you thought, I think we can probably do that?
We're both people. We like to talk to people. So, for us, the business is not only providing a service, but it's building relationships. We know our customers, they know us. They love to see us come in and hey, have you all thought about putting this in the machines, or could we request something? We always tell our customers, we base it not on, is your machine empty? We don't, better way to put it is, we want to make sure that your machine does not come empty. We don't come on Monday every 2 weeks. When your machine needs filled, we fill it. So, our customers appreciate that because they've had pretty much the opposite in the past. And for us, we like meeting the people.
Now, Nate, I know that you said that you always been wanting to be an entrepreneur, wanted to own your own business. So what about Naturals to Go attracted you? What was it? What during your due diligence made you think, I think I want to go with those folks?
Yeah, so they're a great opportunity for their placement program for us. We are a glutton for punishment, so we started two businesses at the same time. And this business was the one that was going to give us the quick income because once we got a machine in, we'd start selling stuff. We knew that. While the other one, we're still trying to build the name up. It's, as most business people know, you don't make much money for 2 to 3 years in a new business. You have to get your name out there. And Naturals2Go with their placement option just was the fit for us to get that income coming in a little quicker to keep the other business afloat also.
And so you said you were a glutton for punishment and you started two businesses at one time and you're still married. Wow, that's amazing, right?
True. And that's another business in itself. That's a full-time job.
So, since you started the two businesses, do you each have a specific role in the Naturals to Go vending business?
I would say yes. You know, Nate is definitely more business minded than me. Um, he does the business end of it as far as keeping everything straight for the taxes. And we have a few sites that we pay commission to. He keeps all of that in check and keeps track of all of that. I do most of the ordering of all the supplies. He's really good at walking through our warehouse we have here at the house and saying, "Hey, we need this and this and this." If I have any doubts, that's just the way his mind works. He's very logistically minded, but and I do maybe 70% of the fills, um, 60 to 70%. He's an early bird, so he does some of the early morning ones that we can get in super early. The 5 a.m. ones. Um, so is that a good way to explain kind of what we do? We each do.
Yeah, that's a really good split. And then I'm also carve out 2 days a month or a week for me to go talk to new customers because we're starting to replace some of our locations that were underperforming. And so I try to I'm building different relationships with that.
Now, Nate, Lori said that you were really good at the logistics of it. Do you think some of that comes from your Army training? Did some of that transfer over?
Yes, absolutely. Everywhere I went in the Army, I was always in a logistics side. Even as an armor officer, they put me in as the battalion logistics officer and did that all the time. So that was a fit for us. It just that's how my brain works. So
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
But isn't it great to be able to start a new business and still tap into those skills that you used in prior careers?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, this is a great fit for us.
Yeah, very good. And so how many machines did you guys start with?
25.
25. Oh, you jumped in full force, didn't you?
Like I said, a capital G glutton for punishment.
So, when you got started, clearly you didn't have any experience in the vending industry. Did you have any obstacles along the way? And if you did, what were some of the ways that you solved those issues?
Our original obstacle was storage. You know, when we first moved here, we did not live here. We moved here and started the businesses. So we rented a house and we said, okay, let's just make our third bedroom storage. So quickly we outgrew that. And, we knew that we weren't going to rent forever. We just wanted to kind of get a feel for where we wanted to live. So we bought a house and we bought a house with an extra large garage. And so we built out the whole back of the garage is our vending room now. Um, I see people all the time that they have storage facilities and stuff, and that has to be so difficult. We are blessed to be able to have it right here.
Definitely, instead of having it off-site, right?
Yeah, so that's one of my first obstacles that I ran into. What about you, Nate?
Good point, Lori. The other obstacle was just trying to get our machines located faster. It never went fast enough, and I don't think it goes fast enough for any investor in machines. But we took our time and got the good ones. There's a couple, that weren't quite as good, but we did, we worked close with our locator. We called each other, text each other, trying to say, hey, this is kind of where we want to look. So we weren't all over the valley because we have machines probably 20 miles apart from one end to the other end. So we were trying to get it a little bit closer.
Mhm. So, do you think that the fact that they located a little bit slower may have given you an opportunity to get your arms around the business before all 25 were located?
Yeah, it doesn't happen by chance. We're God-fearing people, and we know that God lets His timing happen for us, and it's all in His way. So it worked out perfect.
You started with 25. Now, what do you have now?
So we have 24 and a coffee machine. We traded one in for a coffee machine, and we also bought a micro market. So a large hospital with 250 people, workers there, and so that's our extent right now.
So, Nate, do you see that the market for a micro market is different than for vending? How does that differ?
Um, the It's very much the same as far as for product mix. But the difference is you have to factor in some theft and loss. It just that happens. It's free for all. We have cameras and everything. And we always miss 3 to 5 items every time. And I haven't felt that that was enough for me to go through hours and hours of video to try to get one person. Now, if there was a few more dollars, $20, $30, we would definitely look at the videos. But that's the biggest piece there is just accepting that in business you have losses, and sometimes you just ride with it.
And not every location is a good fit for a micro market, is it?
Right. That's true. We have an agreement with the hospital that, if someone is caught stealing, then they lose their job, which we really don't want to do that to anyone. Um, we Nate and I are both, maybe they're going through a rough time, maybe something's happened. So we haven't tried to push that, but you definitely would have to be selective about where you put a micro market, I think.
Yeah, the good thing about ours is it's behavioral health, so it's locked. The break room is locked, so the only people that can get in there are our employees. I've discussed with a lady that called me trying to see if it's a good fit for her micro market, and she has customers coming through her room where they want it. She has, all these different people. And I just pointed out to her, how are you going to be able to say this customer stole a Coke? And then how are they going to be able to fire that person if they don't work there? So I just told the lady, be careful where you go.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. So you're a little over a year into it. You're getting close to your 2-year anniversary. Looking back on it, guys, is there anything you would have done differently?
Mhm. Um,
I would have, I would have assisted in self-locating quicker. We did self-locate the last one, and I would have got a little more involved in the beginning, but I was knee deep in our other business, and we kind of at that time, I focused mainly on the other business, and Lori was focusing on this one, plus having her hospital job, so we stayed very busy, and that's the main reason we didn't go into, helping with the location, but I definitely would have got more involved on that, in hindsight.
You anticipate growing? You talked about getting out and doing some cold calling, some business development. Do you plan on growing the business?
We do, um not to 1,000 vending machines or anything like that, but we would like to add, 5 to 15 more, up to, somewhere between 30 and 40, I think would be a good option mix for us.
Do you anticipate hiring someone? Is there a point in which you say, Lori, you just can't do it by yourself, and that Nate is knee deep in the other business? So at what point do you feel like you may need to hire somebody?
I think we'll only train someone and hire somebody for backups when we want to take a vacation. It's really not as labor intensive as a lot of people might think it is. And so the beautiful thing about vending is I work an hour a week on a machine, roughly, and it sells for 148 hours a week. And I only have to work on it for 1 to 2 hours a week. So that's a good thing with unattended retail, is looking at it that way, that it sells the whole week 24/7. And then I'm only working on it for about 2 hours a week the most. So um, that's why we are stopping at 40 at the most. And if we go bigger, then we'll hire somebody. But right now
Yeah.
we've got it.
Yeah, yeah.
unless she has something else to say.
We'll see it, at some point, not yet. We do want to slow down a little bit, but definitely not yet. And with the two businesses and my other job, it's full time for sure.
Yeah. So we're coming down to the end of the show here, guys. So when you think about other people out there, they were probably they're in the same place that you were at some point where you were doing your due diligence. So if there's someone out there listening that may be considering vending, considering Naturals to go, what advice would you offer them at this point? Nate, can you share some advice from your perspective?
Yeah, I would, like I says, I would get more involved in the locating up front, learn that system. I never got to ride with the locator. Lori did that because I was still in Austin, Texas with my day job before I moved up here. And then I also realized it costs money to grow a business. So, we spent close to $30,000 on the micro market, and just be willing to do that because you're going to reap from it. And then work on them relationships. That's the biggest thing. Make sure you have a very good relationship. Every time I go talk to somebody, I tell them we're not a schedule driven replenishment. We are demand driven replenishment. So we look at when we have empty rows, and just don't get so set that I can only do it on Wednesday, every Wednesday, do this machine, because you're going to lose customers that way.
Yeah, most definitely. Lori, what kind of advice would you offer? It sounds like you're taking care of the customers. It sounds like that's a really important piece of it. So if somebody is listening, what advice would you offer them?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice would to be work on building those relationships. We have several sites that we are several of our locations that we have employee of the month every month, and we give them a Visa card. It's got our name on it. It says TO8 Snacks. It's just a Visa card. It doesn't have to be used in the machine, but every month they know that they're going to get that from us for their employee of the month. We also Nate was in a site not too long ago, and they were having a backpack drive for back to school. So he ran to Walmart, got 6 backpacks, and gave them the backpacks from our business. It there in turn kind of snowballed for them. So then their employees, oh well, they're bringing backpacks. We need to do this too. It's those type things. And next week we have a meal for one of our sites that it's coming up on their year anniversary. They're a great location. So we're going to have a meal for them. We're bringing them breakfast as part of their safety meeting, just as a thank you. And those little things go a long way. It's amazing when we do the employee of the month or when we do the backpacks, you notice an uptick in your sales. We don't do it just for the sales, but that's part of business too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to dovetail on that, all of our replacement machines that we're moving are sister companies of someone we already have. And it's because of word of mouth and because of the backpacks and the Visa gift cards that are for their monthly. That's why they're like, you need to get with this company. You need to get with this company. So it does come back full for us.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how word of mouth spreads and then your business starts growing somewhat organically, right? Yeah,
That's been our goal all along, was to build the relationships so that you don't have a contract when you put a machine in, or we don't make a company sign a contract. Our goal is to never be asked to leave because they don't want us to. They value our service. We take care of them. They know we do. And like you said, they recommend us to their sister companies. So that's huge for us.
Love that. I love that. Well, guys, again, you guys had such a busy schedule running two businesses. They're both growing, and I appreciate you spending time with us today. And I look forward to watching you guys grow. You may be looking at 50 machines, Nate. You just watch.
It'd be possible.
You never know. You never know.
You never know, right? Well, folks, I always leave you with a quote, and this is a quote. It's by an unknown author. Some of these quotes by unknown authors are so good. And this one says, retirement is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of the open highway. And you can definitely tell that Nate and Lori have been on that open highway. Folks, thanks again for joining me today on VIBEcast, and we'll see you next time.
That's a wrap for this episode of the VIBEcast. We hope you've been inspired and empowered on your entrepreneurial journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on all your favorite platforms to stay connected with the Vibe community.